Hey everybody, and welcome back to Your Brain Lied. Today, we're going to talk about something a lot of people wonder about. Something that might even feel a little mysterious. We're going to talk about what really happens in therapy. Now, I know just the word therapy can bring up all sorts of images, right? Maybe it's a movie scene with someone lying on a couch, spilling their deepest secrets. Or maybe it's just this vague idea that it's something you only do if you're really, really struggling. But the truth is, therapy is a lot more down to earth and a lot more useful than most people realize. Let's start with the big question. Why do people even go to therapy? Well, there's no single answer because everyone's different. But generally, people go to therapy because something in their life feels stuck. Maybe they keep repeating the same patterns in relationships, even though those patterns make them unhappy. Maybe they're struggling with anxiety or feeling down for a long time. Maybe they just feel like they're not living up to their potential and they don't know why. Think of it like this. Imagine you're driving a car and the car keeps pulling to the left. You can keep steering to the right to compensate, but that's exhausting and it doesn't fix the underlying problem. Therapy is like taking your car to a mechanic who can diagnose the real issue. Maybe it's an alignment problem or a worn-out tire. Once you fix that, the car drives straight and you can relax and enjoy the ride. One of the biggest things I want to address is the fear and awkwardness that can come with the idea of therapy. I mean, let's be honest, talking about your feelings with a stranger can feel weird. It's totally normal to feel nervous before your first session. You might worry, will they judge me? Will they think I'm crazy? Will I have to cry in front of them? Those are all valid concerns. And honestly, a good therapist understands that. They know it takes courage to walk through that door. They're not there to judge you or to diagnose you with something dramatic. They're there to listen, to understand, and to help you figure out what you want in your life and how to get there. Think about it this way. It's like going to a new gym. You might feel self-conscious at first, worried that everyone is watching you and judging your form. But after a few visits, you realize that most people are just focused on their own workouts. And the trainers are there to help you, not to make you feel bad. Therapy is similar. It might feel awkward at first, but the therapist is there to guide you, and most people are too focused on their own lives to even notice you're going. So, what actually happens in a therapy session? Well, again, it depends on the therapist, the client, and the type of therapy. But generally, it involves a lot of talking. The therapist will ask you questions about your life, your thoughts, your feelings, your relationships. They'll listen carefully to what you say, and they'll also pay attention to what you don't say. They might ask you to elaborate on certain things or to explore a particular feeling more deeply. A big part of therapy is about building a relationship with your therapist. It needs to be a safe space where you feel comfortable being vulnerable and honest. That doesn't mean you have to spill all your secrets in the first session. It takes time to build trust, but the more you can open up, the more helpful therapy will be. Imagine you're trying to assemble a complicated piece of furniture. You could try to do it yourself, but it would probably take a long time, and you might make some mistakes along the way. But if you had someone who knew the instructions really well and who could guide you through each step, it would be a lot easier and faster. Therapy is like having that guide for your emotional life. Now let's talk about breakthroughs. You know, those aha moments where something suddenly clicks into place and you see things in a whole new light. Those can definitely happen in therapy, but they're not always dramatic or earth-shattering. Sometimes a breakthrough is just a small shift in perspective, a new way of thinking about a problem. And honestly, a lot of therapy is just work. It's about consistently showing up, being honest with yourself, and trying new things. It's like learning a new language. You might have moments of inspiration, but most of the time it's just about practicing vocabulary and grammar and gradually getting better over time. Think about it like learning to play a musical instrument. You're not going to become a virtuoso overnight. It takes hours of practice, and there will be times when you feel frustrated and want to give up. But if you keep practicing, you'll eventually start to see progress. And the same is true for therapy. let's address something else that's important: the idea that therapy is a sign of weakness. I hear this all the time, and it drives me crazy. Going to therapy is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It means you're willing to take responsibility for your own well-being and to work on yourself. It takes courage to admit that you're struggling and to ask for help. It's much easier to just ignore your problems or to numb them with distractions. But that's not a sustainable solution. Therapy is about facing your problems head-on and developing the skills to cope with them in a healthy way. Imagine you're an athlete who wants to improve their performance. Would you consider it a sign of weakness to hire a coach? Of course not. You'd see it as an investment in your own success. Therapy is like having a coach for your emotional life. It can help you identify your blind spots, develop new skills, and reach your full potential. Another thing people often wonder about is, how long does therapy last? There's no set answer. Some people go for a few months, some go for years. It really depends on your individual needs and goals. Some people go to therapy to address a specific problem, like anxiety or relationship issues. Once they've developed the skills to manage those issues, they might stop going. Other people see therapy as an ongoing process of self-discovery and growth. They might go for years, even when they're not actively struggling with anything in particular. They see it as a way to stay on track, to maintain their emotional well-being, and to continue to learn and grow. Think of it like going to the dentist. You might go to the dentist to get a cavity filled, and then you might not go back for a while. But you should also go to the dentist regularly for checkups and cleanings, even when your teeth feel fine. Therapy can be similar. It can be helpful for addressing specific problems, but it can also be a valuable tool for maintaining your overall emotional health. Okay, so we've covered a lot, but let's bring it down to earth. Let's imagine a scenario. Let's say there's someone, we'll call them Alex, who is in their early 30s. Alex has a good job, a nice apartment, and a decent group of friends, but Alex also feels stuck. They keep getting into the same types of relationships that start off great, but eventually fizzle out and leave Alex feeling hurt and disappointed. Alex has tried talking to their friends about it, but they mostly just offer generic advice like, just be yourself, or there are plenty of fish in the sea. Alex knows that something needs to change, but they don't know where to start. They've considered therapy before, but they've always been a little hesitant. They worry that it will be too expensive or that they won't be able to find a therapist they connect with. But finally, after another relationship ends badly, Alex decides to take the plunge. They start searching online for therapists in their area, and they read reviews and watch videos to get a sense of different therapist styles. Alex eventually finds a therapist who seems like a good fit, and they schedule a first appointment. Alex is nervous before the first session, but they decide to be open and honest. They tell the therapist about their relationship history, their feelings of frustration and disappointment, and their desire to find a healthy, lasting relationship. The therapist listens carefully, asks thoughtful questions, and offers some initial insights. Over the next few months, Alex continues to go to therapy regularly. They explore their past relationships in more detail, and they start to identify some patterns that they weren't aware of before. They realize that they tend to be attracted to people who are emotionally unavailable, and that they have a tendency to people please in relationships, which ultimately leads to resentment and burnout. With the therapist's help, Alex starts to work on changing these patterns. They learn to set boundaries, to communicate their needs more assertively, and to prioritize their own well-being in relationships. It's not easy, and there are setbacks along the way, but gradually Alex starts to feel more confident and empowered. And here's the key thing. Alex doesn't suddenly find the perfect partner and live happily ever after. That's not how life works. But they do start to approach relationships in a healthier way. They're more selective about who they date, and they're better at recognizing red flags. They're also more confident in their ability to handle whatever comes their way, whether it's a successful relationship or a painful breakup. That's what therapy can do. It's not a magic bullet, but it can give you the tools and the support you need to navigate the challenges of life with more resilience and self-awareness. So what are the key takeaways here? First, therapy is not just for people who are in crisis. It's a valuable tool for anyone who wants to improve their emotional well-being and live a more fulfilling life. Second, it's normal to feel nervous or awkward about going to therapy. But a good therapist will create a safe and supportive environment where you can be vulnerable and honest. Third, therapy is not a quick fix. It's a process that takes time and effort, but the rewards can be significant. I want to leave you with a few questions to reflect on. First, what are some areas of your life where you feel stuck or unhappy? Second, what are some things you could do to take better care of your emotional well-being? And third, what's one small step you could take today to move closer to your goals? Whether that's scheduling a therapy appointment, talking to a trusted friend, or simply taking some time for yourself to relax and reflect. Remember, your brain is always trying to protect you, even if it's sometimes lying to you in the process. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.